Next on KQED Newsroom, the future of entertainment, from sports to the Symphony.
They think they're going to come in here and they have to be quiet and it's stuffy and everyone's, wearing a tuxedo.
Good evening. Welcome to KQED Newsroom. I'm Scott Schaefer. We're going to start with some breaking news. The verdict in a high-profile gender discrimination case, a case very closely watched in Silicon Valley. This afternoon, a jury ruled that venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins did not discriminate against Ellen Pao. Pao had sued the firm, claiming it did not promote her because of her gender. The case has focused attention on the lack of diversity in the tech industry. Joining me now to discuss the verdict's impact is Fran Maier, the founder of Match.com and TrustE. Fran Maier, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott.
First of all, the obvious question, what's your reaction to this verdict?
Somewhat surprised, although I think everybody knew that discrimination cases like this could be complex, and Ellen was complex herself. But I think disappointed.
As a woman or as someone in the tech industry, why were you disappointed?
From a point of view as a woman, I think it took a lot of courage to bring this case. I think it exposed a lot of issues that have been somewhat endemic, not just in venture capital, but with the technology firms. And most women I know were really watching this because it was sort of our time in court. That being said, this has had the benefit of making us all talk about the issues.
Well, of course, Kleiner Perkins dodged a bullet in a way. They did prevail. But I'm wondering if you think, in spite of that, that there's been some kind of a tarnishing of their reputation.
Well, I think when you have to expose all the sexual harassment that apparently did actually happen and some of the practices, I'm sure that they took a hit. I think venture capital firms are so important to the whole valley and sort of set the tone that hopefully this hit that they took, which isn't as big as the big hit, in any case, will drive some change, at least some internal looking at what's working and what's not for women in these companies.
As you said, it's no secret if you look at the numbers, Silicon Valley is very male. There are a lot of stories, some of them came out in this trial, about the way women are treated. Why do you think that wasn't enough to convince the jury?
I think the legal standard is really hard. I think also for jurors, we're talking about people who are making $500,000, $1 million. Maybe that is outside their experience. I'm looking forward to seeing what they say. But again, the important thing is we start to have the conversation. And I think the spotlight on Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley companies, we think we're changing the world for the better, and sometimes we are. But that righteousness and that this has tarnished that too.
So what needs to change, even in spite of the fact that Kleiner Perkins prevailed? It's not a green light to continue business as usual.
Well, I think for companies, what they have to do is really look at how are they treating the women? Are they really not having biases? Are they including women on the golf trip, ski trip, what have you? And really take some action. I think for women, we've got to stand even taller and step up and don't give up. Help each other, start our own companies, take the talents we have where they might be most appreciated.
Could this be a little dispiriting, though, in that regard?
Right, so that's why I'm saying don't give up. It is dispiriting, as you say, but I think the important thing is let's remember that women-led companies outperform male-led companies substantially, both in terms of return on investment and revenues. So it's good business to invest in women. It's good business to have women as part of your management team because they obviously represent not only their own skills, which can be very strong, but also half the population. It's bad business not to have women in the executive suite.
Well, Fran Maier, thanks so much for coming in.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
And you may have read about the Ellen Pao verdict on your cell phone or caught snippets of the trial on social media. The internet has generated more competition for your attention than ever before. Now entertainers, businesses, and yes, even journalists are experimenting with ways to keep you engaged. Tonight, we're going to look at some of those experiments. We'll start with one of the more traditional arts institutions, the San Francisco Symphony. It has created SoundBox to attract a different crowd. Cy Musiker takes us inside.
Many who come here tonight may not know a lot about classical music, but that's part of the experiment.
SoundBox is designed to appeal to people, many of them younger people, who never have attended many classical concerts before, or perhaps have attended them and weren't quite sure about how they should react to the experience.
This is a laboratory for the San Francisco Symphony and music director Michael Tilson Thomas, who are looking for ways to create new musical experiences and entice new audiences.
Since the 1970s, I've been really interested in how the installation of music can change the audience's perception of it. Of course, for musicians, it's all enveloping, it's all around us. It is a kind of separate world. But how to bring people who are listening to the music more inside the world that we, the performers, are experiencing. I thought, how could this be achieved with lighting, with different configurations of seating, with projection?
By day, the space is a cavernous rehearsal hall. But by showtime, lighting, a bar, and custom acoustics designed for the event completely transform the space. The musicians are members of the same orchestra that performs on the main stage of Davies Symphony Hall, where they've honed their skills playing classical symphonies. But in this venue, there are multiple stages and opportunities to broaden the repertoire.
Playing in SoundBox is a completely different experience. Musically, we do get to do different things in SoundBox. The piece that I played was kind of a very angular, loud, rambunctious piece.
Each set lasts 20 to 30 minutes with ample intermissions to mingle and buy drinks. And at $25, the price of entry here is a fraction of the higher tier symphony seats.
It's a more relaxed atmosphere, and I think that is the first thing that kind of turns younger, maybe less exposed people off to the whole symphony experience. They think they're going to come in here and they have to be quiet, and it's stuffy, and everyone's, wearing a tuxedo or a ball gown, and, you can't talk, and you can't move, and you don't know when to clap.
The free-flowing atmosphere is targeting a younger, more diverse audience, but the goal is to hook them into serious music. At the March concert, a string quartet performed a piece by San Francisco composer Nathaniel Stuckey.
It is very challenging music. I usually tend to, when I go out, go to more kind of either rock-oriented shows or hip-hop shows or kind of more modern shows. But I found that it blew my mind. It's been an incredible experience. The experience of seeing it makes me only want to see more and experience more.
The series is just 4 months old, and the Symphony has made some unusual marketing choices, like not putting a link to SoundBox on its homepage, says classical music critic Joshua Cosman.
It's almost like it's a crazy cousin that they don't want to be associated with. So it's a sort of an anti-marketing strategy, right, where you kind of make sure not to give too much information that will bring in the regulars and squeeze out the newcomers and the adventurers.
Cosman said that symphonies need to justify their existence in a landscape crowded with entertainment options. The San Francisco Symphony Board president, Sakurako Fisher, argues that SoundBox is about more than selling tickets. It's about staying relevant.
It's not a business. It is part of the necessity of the human heart. It's a part of what makes a vibrant community, and as long as we think that's important, I think that we'll, sure, would we like it to be more like a business? Who wouldn't? It's not. I accept that. Let's move forward then.
If the current run of sold-out performances means anything, SoundBox may be the prototype for the next era in classical music.
And joining us now to talk about finding new audiences and keeping those audiences engaged are Matt DiPietro, Vice President of Marketing for the live streaming site Twitch, YouTube star Nick Pitera, and Kenny Lauer, Vice President of Digital and Marketing for the Warriors. Thank you all for being here today. Kenny, let's begin with you. Well, first of all, congratulations. The Warriors just clinched a playoff berth.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Very fun.
Yeah,
we're really enjoying it.
There's a lot going on at Warriors games, not just the basketball, which is phenomenal these days. And we have a video of some of what goes on. Let's watch for just a moment.
Okay.
Well, there you go. There's some serious noise.
Yeah, make some noise.
How has your organization's approach to entertainment changed?
Well, a lot of it comes with ownership. Our ownership is heavily steeped, Peter Guber, in entertainment. And what we do, we really look at ourselves more in the experience creation business. People are going to come to a game, and it's live entertainment. They want to be entertained, they want to have fun, and they have expectations of that. Our goal is to use technology, use what we know about entertainment, and use the fact that our team is doing really well to create an unbelievable overall experience from the minute they come in through the gates to the minute they leave.
Well, besides the change in ownership, though, how much of what you're doing now is driven by the way the digital era has transformed everything? There's so much competition now for people's attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. Technology, if you're in the experience creation business, as we are, technology and what you can do with that is, I often refer to it as Harry Potter's bag of spells. But we still remember that technology is just an enabler. You have to start with, what do you want the experience to be? What do you want the behavior? What is going to make a fan and allow a fan to have a memorable experience so that they will share? It'll be remarkable, something emotional, so they will come back.
How much of that is to get them in the door, and how much of it is to create like an atmosphere that's tough for the the visiting team?
Yeah, well, I think it's both. I think it's important that their experience as they move through the different stages, from coming into the arena, into the concourse, and actually experiencing the game, is something that is memorable and is incredible. But let's face it, when you have an opening sequence similar to what you saw, that gets the fans engaged, that creates that momentum and that energy, yes, that's why our home court advantage is so powerful.
Matt, let's talk about Twitch.
Sure.
Because you've got 100 million unique visitors a month. Amazon just paid about $1 billion to buy it. And yet a lot of people don't even know what it is. So we're going to watch a little bit of a clip here. Tell us what we're watching.
Great, absolutely. So what you're essentially seeing is one of our broadcasters. The screen is a little far away, so I can't tell which in particular. But what she's doing is playing through a game and just talking with her audience through the game. On the right side of the screen, you see the chat experience, which is very crucial to the experience. So the audience that is watching while she's playing is chatting with each other in the chat room, and also chatting with her so that she can respond to the audience. So it's a very, very sort of social experience.
And they're watching and playing video games.
Yes, video games. Mm-hmm.
Well,
almost exclusively video games, right?
What is the appeal of that? Am I just not the right generation?
Yes.
Are you saying I'm old?
I would never say such a thing. I think really what it comes down to, the thing that Twitch brings to the audience is a social experience that has sort of been missing from gaming for the last 20 years. When you think back on the origin of games, like, your first Atari in the living room with your brothers or your friends or whatever, it was a very social experience, or the arcade experience, where you've got the guy in the arcade who has the high score at Pac-Man and everybody wants to be him, or the funny guy, or what have you. It's really bringing that sort of social experience back to the gaming community in a way that I think they've just been missing for a long time.
And in that clip we saw, that was a woman who was sort of hosting that show. How unusual is it to have a woman involved in this? Because you think of it as being very much a male-oriented thing.
Sure, it's really not unusual at all. I mean, gaming as an industry, I think, leans toward male for sure. But female broadcasters, female gamers are not out of the ordinary in any sense.
And is that in part to draw the young male players? What is that?
Yeah, well, it certainly doesn't hurt, but it works the other way too. We have all kinds of different broadcasters. You can be just simply entertaining, you can be funny, you can be really good at your game, you could be really bad at your game. We have people that just, their thing is to play the weirdest games they can get their hands on and talk through them and just have fun with them.
So your thing is live streaming, but what Nick Pitera does on YouTube is kind of different. You're a singer, but you don't do live streaming, you do produced videos.
Yes.
And in fact, we have a clip from one of those. So let's just listen for a moment.
This hit that ice cold Michelle, fight for that white gold. This one for them hoods.
Uptown Funk. You're looking pretty cool there.
Trying too hard.
Why did you decide to launch your career on YouTube?
For me, it was accidental because I sort of started when YouTube was still a new thing and people weren't necessarily seeking out attention on YouTube or to go viral. And so it was, I had put up a video for a contest because it was the requirement for the contest to sing a song, put it online, and that was your entry. And it got a little bit of exposure, more than I intended, nothing crazy. And then my friends had convinced me to put another video up, and that kind of went all over the place. And suddenly I had, you know, a few million people watching it, and I had an audience and an outlet to pursue music. So it kind of provided me this opportunity to actually pursue something that I didn't have an opportunity to do before.
So how much time do you spend making these videos, and what have you learned about what you need to do as a YouTube performer to keep an audience engaged and also get new viewers?
Yeah. I think some of that is, it depends on what video I'm doing. Sometimes I sort of will alternate between something that's very heavily produced and something that is maybe a little bit more simple from a visual standpoint. And I think some of what helps as far as maintaining an audience or gaining a new one, like you mentioned, is the song choice. Like, I'll usually listen to what my audience is asking me to sing, or you know, sometimes I try not to rely on this too heavily because I want to actually be choosing songs for, you know, the reason of me liking them or feeling like I could do something to it. But if I'm covering something, if it's, you know, more relevant, you might get more exposure, so that might actually kind of help.
So it's interaction with your audience.
Yeah,
You sound like you're, and do you interact with them primarily through the YouTube platform or through social media? Through
a lot
Twitter?
of other social media like Twitter, and I use Patreon, which is another SF company, and interact with my viewers there as well.
So Kenny, I'm wondering, as you're listening to them, where do you see as the overlap between what they're doing and what you're trying to do with the Warriors?
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's so obvious. Obviously, with Twitch, live is an essential component, and what we do in the arena is live content. Some of the reactions and the following that you're having when things are happening live are exactly what happens in the arena, which is why still sports, going to a sporting event, is so unique because it's happening at that moment. You're there to experience it. And whether you're physically there or you're experiencing it through a stream is incredibly powerful. And for yours, what I realized is we're all talking about content.
Yeah.
How is content now being used as a way to engage? And how are we using all of the technologies available to be able to do that? And then to create, you know, unique content that works really well on that platform.
And
So,
well, when you're talking, because you keep on going back to technology,
Yeah.
okay, so let's take, for example, Levi's Stadium. It is now probably the most high-tech stadium in the world, arguably. You can go now and you can have an app that tells you where the closest bathroom is. You can order drinks and food to your seat. You can watch replays, like as if you were home watching things on TV. So you're going to have a new stadium in San Francisco, arena for the Warriors. Will it be just as high-tech? What can we expect to see that will create that fan experience, as you put it?
yeah, so we are just in the process of really understanding and focusing very deliberately on what that experience is going to be. And our experience for the new arena will extend past the arena. It'll be what happens in the arena as well as the plaza and the other parts of our complex. So we're watching all the other technologies that's happening both domestically and internationally in arenas, in stadiums. Certainly we're following what's happening at Levi's down there.
Well, what's catching your eye?
Been there.
Can you give us a few tidbits here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the beauty about what we're doing is that we have been given by our ownership not only the opportunity, but really the responsibility to test, to use our current arena as a petri dish to try different technologies, which is really the only way you're going to understand how it affects a fan. So beacon technology, for example, or proximity messaging is something that we have had a lot of success with. We find it very powerful in being able to recognize where someone is and delivering a message or creating a behavior that wouldn't normally happen. And we find that sort of thing can stretch and be embedded throughout a larger space to really provide more contextual messaging.
And Matt, part of what the Warriors are doing is trying to grow an audience. You have a large audience already, but as you think ahead, are you also trying to expand the numbers and the kinds of people that are using your service?
Potentially. You know, what we try to do is create a platform that is flexible first. So, you know, we want to create a platform that is flexible enough for our broadcasters to use it however they like. You know, whether you are a sort of an individual broadcaster who's using Twitch in more of a social media type of a way, a user-generated content kind of a way with 5 or 10 or 50 viewers, or if you are, for example, the Ultra Music Festival, which is live right now on Twitch, for example, which has, I mean, I think it has 200,000 concurrent viewers on it right now, you know. So you can be a large media organization, you can be an individual broadcaster as well.
Is it oversimplifying it to say that this is kind of like YouTube but live?
YouTube but live is fair. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's fair as an introduction, absolutely. The thing that I think is interesting is that you know, I'm sort of between these two guys because on the one hand, I think going to a basketball game, for example, is people crave that kind of an experience because in this world where we are all sort of binge watching, you know, Netflix in isolation, people crave a live experience with a group of people, and that's what Twitch provides. It's a live experience, and if you don't do it right now, it's never going to happen again.
There's no archive.
Well,
right.
Well, the magnitude of the gaming industry just blows me away. I mean, globally, it's so huge. And just even here in this country, I was just reading this report on it. It's the League of Legends, the video game. 1.5 years ago, roughly, when the championship happened, 32 million people were doing this on streaming services, including Twitch. That was more than the audience for the finale of The Sopranos, 24, and Breaking Bad combined. I mean, I had no idea it was so big.
It sounds really astonishing, particularly to the uninitiated, to folks that aren't necessarily gamers. But yeah, the audiences for those kinds of events meet and often exceed cable-sized, broadcast television-sized audiences. It's really kind of astonishing. And the thing that I think is interesting for somebody like Nick, for example, is, you know, it's really the democratization of media it's the continuing trend of the democratization of media, right? So Twitter, Facebook, etc., YouTube, Twitch, it all provides a platform for just about anybody to get an audience if you have a talent and the will to do it.
Well, and part of that democratization is that anybody can make comments online. And, you know, Nick, I'm wondering, how do you deal with that in terms of, you know, people can be pretty nasty.
Yeah, the internet can be mean. I'm okay with it because I sort of view it as, well, that's a view, so I'll take it. I also feel like you can't, it's very easy and safe to say negative things like from a distance behind a computer, so I've never, like, it's never necessarily gotten to me, but I know people that are very sensitive to it.
Would you ever perform live? Would you ever?
I do actually perform quite a bit live because of YouTube, which has been really great.
Do you stream
Exactly.
it, though? Do you stream
I haven't done streaming live things. It's mainly been like physically, you know, doing shows.
Maybe halftime at an upcoming Warriors game.
Yeah, really. Is that different? Is that different for you?
It's really nice because I'm so used to my audience being digital. So it's really great to get to go and see people face to face. Like I performed at there are sort of YouTube and social media based sort of convention type things like VidCon, which is a big thing in Anaheim, and that's sort of YouTube in real life. And so it's very it's very surreal to see and meet other creators that, you know, I have either worked with cross country and see them live there and perform with them, and to see your audience in person is sort of a really great thing.
Kenny, you have your new arena, 2018, right? You're moving to San Francisco. You have such a loyal fan base in the East Bay, where you're based now. Do you worry about losing that fan base when you cross the Bay? And what will you do to try to keep that audience and keep them engaged?
Well, I mean, in my role, I worry about losing a fan every day between games, in the off season. But I'm not worried. I mean, in fact, we are actually considered more the Bay's team. I mean, if you look at the fact that there's 2 baseball teams, 2 football teams, we really are the only basketball team. And, you know, we came to San Francisco. We played 9 years as the San Francisco Warriors, 1 year in San Jose, and a whole bunch of years in Oakland. So we really have been in multiple areas in the Bay Area.
You've been in this job a couple years. What were you told by the ownership about trying new things, keeping it fresh, because, you know, it's great to have success, and as the team is winning, it's easier to get people in the doors. But if they, you know, have a bad season, then what you do really matters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of my very first conversations with Peter after I joined was Peter Guber, who's one of our owners from the entertainment industry, basically gave me the edict. He said, you have to be brave, you have to be bold, and you have to try things and make mistakes. Because if you don't, we don't need you, because we're already not doing that. So the responsibility really was, and the opportunity is, to continue to try. In fact, my team is held more accountable for not trying things, for not failing, for possibly being creatively lazy than anything else. And believe me, coming from tech, which is where I came from, to be in a sports team here and to have that kind of latitude, to be able to be almost like an incubator to try things, is what really is going to ultimately give us the advantage in delivering the kind of experience for our fans that they deserve.
Well, we wish you luck with all of that.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Come see us.
We will.
Okay.
And good luck with the playoffs.
Thank you very much.
Are you nervous?
No, I'm very confident. But we'll take one game at a time. Yeah, lace up.
You're doing something right here.
All right, great.
Thanks to all of you. Kenny Lauer with the Warriors, Nick Pitera with YouTube, and Matt DiPietro with Twitch.
Thanks very much.
And that is all we have for tonight. For all of KQED's news coverage, please go to kqednews.org.
I'm Scott Schaefer. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Thuy Vu. Have a good night.
Funding for KQED Arts is provided by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation and the California Arts Council, and by Diane B. Wilsey. Additional funding is provided by Helen Sarah Steyer and Gretchen Kimball.